the birthplace of the Bohemian Revolution, from Cowork 591 Studios. We are the Bohemian Reformation. This is the Steve Brown Art Center Podcast Network with producer Blake Tempus, co-host Dale Rueber, who's going to sing Alice's Restaurant for us later on. I am Jim Gillespie, and this is the Jesup News for July 15th, 2024. Share this podcast with your friends, please. We're going to talk about the Steve Brown Art Center's first artist in residence, actually. Tonight on the show, we talk about the richest man to ever walk the earth, after Dale Rueber.
Well, sure.
Yeah. We're going to ask an important question. We're going to discuss if Biden should stay in the race. We talk about the top issues in the presidential election. We're going to give you Jesup news. Littleton 3 watermelon is around the corner. We have weekly updates, and we look at the Steve Brown Art Center. The Steve Brown Art Center is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that has a vision for artists, young and old alike, to have the opportunity to better themselves while helping to build the skills of those around them. It will be offering community programming starting in Jesup, Iowa, before expanding to neighboring communities. The long-range vision is to house a rural artist residency program for professional and emerging artists in all areas of the arts and the humanities. Artists will be offered accommodations and studio space in exchange for a contribution of labor and maintenance of the buildings and grounds.
Okay, mention something we got into last week a little bit.
Please.
Okay, we talked about the library having the STEM bag centers. You remember that? And they're having Wednesday, and the next one is Wednesday the 17th. And you can go in and explore these STEM activities. It's a self-directed come-and-go program, and they're available from 10 to 1 and 2 to 4 every Wednesday. And some activities may require an adult present, but we talked about, we didn't really know what STEAM stood for.
Right.
Well, one of our devoted listeners sent me a little note saying that the A in STEAM stands for arts. And so it's science, tech, engineering, arts, and math is what those activities for. So you have the STEM, which is the more engineering and tech and that sort of thing.
Right.
And then the second one involves the arts as well.
Arts.
So I thought, well, that's the kind of bags we should be in support of.
That's
so
right.
So anyway, I'm glad they sent that note along.
Well, thank you.
It's clear from Ypsilanti, Michigan, I got that note.
Thanks to our listeners on Michigan.
And I did want to give a shout out to Eric in Lake City. He listens every week also. And he was not able to make it to the big game last night in State Center. He had work problem. And so they could have used your help, Eric. They lost 2-1. But we missed you there, and so it's too bad you couldn't have been at that game. We want to know that we appreciate your listening to our podcast every week.
Appreciate Eric listening. You're right. He's been a loyal listener to us. So Dale, let's start with the question that's been on everybody's mind here. You've heard since the debate between former President Trump and President Biden. Should President Biden stay in the race?
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because just on the news this afternoon, they had George Clooney, the actor, and he has come out saying that Biden needs to drop out. And he said that they were at one of these celebrity things, and where Biden spoke, and I mean, it was a prominently played clip where looked like President Obama was helping to lead President Biden off the stage. And he said at that function or gathering, it probably was a fundraiser kind of thing, he saw the same things there that he saw of Biden in the debate. Mm-hmm. So he has come out now and said that he thinks Biden should drop out. George Clooney is very well respected. I'm sure donates a lot of money. And those California artists, they do donate a lot of money to, especially to Democratic candidates. And so if that's, and it might just be an inkling that he's in real trouble as far as donations go. And, if you don't have the donations, it doesn't fly. So I have said, it's been my thing, after watching the debates, where's Richard Nixon? And I always hated Nixon. Where's Richard Nixon when we need him? So even last year, I said, Trump and Biden both are too old. I'm the same age as Trump is, pretty within a year. There's too many things I can't do like I used to do. So I keep thinking there's got to be somebody better, and I know they after the debate, they talked with the governor of California. He's young and he's got all his hair and he's a polished speaker and comes across as very knowledgeable. And I know he's very liberal politics in California, probably would have a tough time maybe with the rest of the country. But there's got to be people like that would be able to run for president and get elected and do the job. And there's a poll today came out that Kamala Harris, they show her in this poll beating Biden and Trump.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that she would beat both of them. And so, and then they have Trump beating Biden and Harris beating Trump and Biden. And so it's a mixed up mess. But I thought maybe his wife would talk into maybe stepping down. She's his biggest advocate, it seems like. So anyway, I think there's still time to go through the process and get another nominee if someone would step. A lot of people didn't do anything because they had an incumbent running. But if the incumbent said he's not running, it's just like in '68 when Johnson said he wasn't going to run. It opens things up. A lot can happen in 3 short months. So
during the primaries, President Biden received 15 million votes. Mm-hmm. Do you say, Dale, that those 15 million voters don't count?
I don't say they don't count, but I'm saying that a man in his 80s like he is, 6 months can make a lot of difference. And again, who else was running? See, there was no alternative.
Marianne Williamson. There's an African American gentleman. I forget what his name
not
is.
Exactly household names.
No.
Yeah. And so, take that into account. But they're not. They were going to vote against the incumbent, and then as it turns out, as he gets older and older every day. So I don't know. I mean, I think he may have saved the nation, may have saved the world by getting Trump out of the White House. But he did his 4 years, did a remarkable job, and I think things are going really well. And when you hear the truth about things are going pretty well. But I think it's time for him to go.
Well,
but again, I'll vote for him before I vote for Trump. I was saying today, sometimes you ever see where somebody's on the ballot and then they die before the election, but the ballots have been printed, and so they can't take and sometimes the dead guy wins the election. Yeah, I'd vote for the dead guy before I'd vote for Trump. So that's just me.
The New York Times came out with a article in, I think it was Monday. The news comes out so fast anymore that it gets confusing. It was that a neurologist, a man that helps with Parkinson's, visited the White House, 8 times in 8 months.
And they won't say who he's visiting.
No.
Right? Yeah.
No, but if you read that article farther, that same neurologist visited the White House 12 times in 2012.
Oh.
Also, if you read that article farther, of those 8 times that the neurologist visited the White House while Biden was in office, Biden was gone from the White House 5 of those times.
Okay.
They treat other people in the White House. The White House isn't just where the president.
No, it's a large office building. Really, most of it's a large office building.
Right.
And so
it is. Joe has never been well spoken, and that's coming from a man who struggles and stutters. Mm-hmm. I struggle, and Joe. I heard Joe speak live back when he ran for president the first time in the 90s. And he had the same problem then.
Yeah.
Now he's 81 years old.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
And he speaks slower, still has the stutter, and I have the stutter. My cousin was giving me a hard time. Hi to Deanna out in Colorado. She says, well, I love your podcast, but God, you speak slow. I taught school 35 years this way, Deanna. Yeah. It's how I speak.
To cut the curriculum in half when you were teaching, right?
That's right. Is how Biden is.
Yeah.
Right now, and I'll admit that I'm a registered Democrat, and he has done some good things. He did UBI. for young families. Paid them for having young kids, and got a lot of families out of debt back during COVID by doing that. He's done a lot of stuff that people don't realize that he did. And so I was listening to a pundit, and he was saying one man doesn't run the country.
Well, sure.
It's who they put around him that counts. And I think Biden's got a lot of good people around him right now.
Well, they say the turnover in the White House staff has been 13% for Biden, and it was 90-some% for Trump, as far as advisors and this sort of thing. That Trump went through almost all of them, and Biden has gone through 13%. It's all has left, and new guys come in. So, it's the last figures I saw. So, yeah, I know just what you're saying. Presidents get too much blame; they get too much credit too. And if you read the Constitution, there's only certain things they can do, and it's the House of Representatives, of course, that has all the money. I mean, they have to do all the spending bills and everything, and so. But the House and the Senate both have really given up a lot of their authority and constitutional powers over the last 25, 50 years, whatever. They just, it's almost like they want somebody else to take all the blame, and they've just abdicated their responsibilities, and so that's kind of sad too. So I'm sorry, I don't know where we're going.
No,
with
that's
this,
good.
But,
that's good.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on.
Well, will Biden be on the ticket come the first Tuesday in November?
Yeah, I don't know. That's all I don't know. There's still time for things to happen.
He's out working Trump right now.
Well, he has to. I mean, he's got to show what he can do. And I don't care if he reads off a teleprompter. I don't think, that has nothing to do with getting stuff done, and knowing who to talk to and having the right help around you, as you mentioned, is more important than the president being, very good at making a speech or something.
Okay.
So we didn't answer anything, did we? But
no.
Gave opinions. So.
Yeah. This is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. Some of our sponsors include Reyes Concrete, the Littleton Lounge, the Third LLC, the Littleton Chatham Historical Society, Laces, Joe and Judy Olson, and the Independence Bulletin Journal. Dale, what do we have for library news there?
Well, some of the things we mentioned last week are still activities, and there's some still. The July Spice is time, and we talked about that last week, and we should make something, have some time in it, and see what it tastes like. The Exercise with Friends program, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 o'clock goes on, and they use low-impact video-led workouts, and it's 45 to 60 minutes, and new participants always welcome, and you can do it seated or standing, however you want to do it. The Arts and Scrap, get your creative juices flowing every Friday in July, so the next one will be the 19th. You can use the community room from 9 to 12 to create your own crafty masterpiece, and they'll have a lot of different arts and crafts materials there, and if you're 10 and under, you have to have an adult. We talked about the STEM Steam Bag Centers on Wednesdays. 10 to 1 and 2 to 4 they're available. I was going to talk about the Who Killed Becky Burke murder mysteries. We need to find out about that and report next week how that went. And so that was a fundraiser they did. And I guess I was in the library today. I didn't see Becky Burke though. Maybe they got her.
I was in there yesterday. I saw her.
Oh, okay. All right. Is she bloody or anything? Or she's
No.
a little good?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Read to Phoebe. Phoebe is the special therapy dog that many children will know from Jesup Elementary School in Mrs. Nolan's classroom. She visits the public library on Thursdays in July from 11:30 to 1. She listens to her friends read to her. We talked last week about how if they don't, Phoebe doesn't like the book, she gives them a bite or something. But I'm sure she does not do that. Candy sushi we talked about. You can make sushi that's actually sweet to eat. They're made with candy, fruit strips, and cereal, and little pieces of bass. No, that's not right. Candy, fruit strips, and cereal, and eat them with real chopsticks.
It's carp. Is it
carp? Okay. So Tuesday, July 16th at 2 o'clock, that's happening. Yeah. Have you ever eaten with chopsticks? Are you any good at it? Or?
I'm bad at it.
Yeah, I had a lesson once and I didn't do very well.
Yeah.
So that's okay. If you and I have eaten with people who eat with chopsticks all the time, they can pick up a grain of rice, with those things. It's just unbelievable.
It is. It is.
I couldn't get it with a fork or something.
No.
Okay, a cockatoo encounter. There's a cockatoo that's coming to the library on July 19th at 4 o'clock.
He was there yesterday, too.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
That was an unadvertised special then.
Yeah.
So it's a one-of-a-kind bird.
I wonder if they didn't change the date because he was there yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know. That could very well be. I don't know. We should check up on that.
Yes.
Okay. Wild Thunder. Learn about our friends in nature with Wild Thunder Wildlife and Animal Rehabilitation and Sanctuary. That's on Tuesday, July 23 at 2 o'clock. And hear about and see animals native to Iowa and exotics as well. So that's all ages. That's Tuesday, July 23rd at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then, I don't know if I even mentioned this last week, but the Adventure Pass program. Did you know your library card can get you into area attractions for free? Through our Adventure Pass program, Jesup library card holders who are 18 years and older can borrow passes to the Blank Park Zoo, the Grout Museum District, and the Quad Cities Fun Bundle. That's the Putnam Museum, the Botanical Center, and Niabi Zoo. Niabi. I don't know, Niabi a bit. Niabis. Visit the library's website today to learn more about the Adventure Pass program and start planning your next adventures.
Is that Nairobi?
It's not Nairobi, it's Niabi, Niabi. I bet it's Niabi, Niabi.
Okay.
If they phonetically spell things for me, I'm okay, but if they don't, I just fumble with my tongue. Want me to do a couple other things here?
Yeah,
okay,
we do that.
July 18th is the next lunch in the park. And that's made right with salads and chips. That's by the Fairbank Elementary School, and so that'll be interesting how they do.
You know, are you going?
I don't know. My grandson's here, and I'm not sure he'll eat chef salad this week. And so next week, though, if it's made right, I probably would go down.
Yeah. I'll have to go down.
Yeah. And there's another one. July 25th is pork burgers. August 1st is walking tacos. And August 8th is mac and pork and veggies and Oreo fluff, which is good. But that's the day you're having your youth talent show from 11 to 12:30.
Yes,
You want to talk about that a minute?
Yes. What it generally is the piano teachers and a few of the high school students come, and we usually have between 25 and 35 different students, and they come to the lunch in the park, and we do the talent show. Annette Zook is the talent coordinator, and she's kind enough to go to the other piano teachers, and we bring these students in, and they take about 3 minutes apiece, and it usually takes us about 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it is wonderful. Some of them are, artist Carter Rout, who has performed for the Steve Brown Arts Center a couple times, actually. That's how we met him. Mm-hmm. We have one of the Bovey girls while she was on our show, sure. Allison, performed there. And Allison is going to perform for us August 25th at a fundraiser at the Otter Creek Animal Rescue.
Okay, that's on our list of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Allison Brown in the library today.
You did.
She's working in the library. And I asked her if she's going to study library science. She said, no, she's very interested in chemistry. And so I don't know anything to say about that.
Yeah, there you go.
So she wants to work with chemistry when she goes to college. So I thought that was interesting. This week, Judy's Food Truck is on Monday, 11 to 4. Gibby's Food Truck, 11 to 4 on the 16th. And Bowls of Love, just 11 to 2 on the 17th. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. You can get in, the food trucks will be here. They got 2 more the following week and 2 the last. It looks like it says here, where's this come from? Co-work on August the 2nd. It says save the date scavenger hunt at 6:30 p.m. You know anything about that?
I don't. Okay. I don't.
So, we get more information. We can pass it on.
We do, and it was something that they're doing in Raleigh that really excites me, and I'm looking for somebody to lead this. Is they at the pavilion in Raleigh, mm-hmm. like the picnic pavilion that we have in downtown? Yeah. They do a line dance once a week there. What they do is a lady just brings her phone with a speaker, and she teaches line dancing for about 90 minutes, and they line dance. And ages 8 to 80 are welcome, and I think that would be fun to do in our park.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we're looking for someone that would be interested in teaching line dance in the pavilion the night of their choice. Yeah. They could choose what night they wanted to do it. If you're interested, contact Dale or myself. My number is 319-290-0241. So contact us if you'd like to lead that.
Okay. I didn't know. Are they still doing as much of that as they were like 20 years ago? Or
I guess they are.
Must
I
have
guess
to be, yeah.
I guess they are. I mean, there's enough people interested in Raleigh, Iowa,
Yeah.
that they get 20 people and
Sure.
and they're just dancing in the park.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exercise, it's dance,
Yeah.
it's a good thing to do.
And the line there was a picture in the paper, and it was Hands Across America, where people held hands and made a line clear across the United States. Do you remember that
Yeah,
happening?
yeah.
Okay, I did not remember that happening. I don't remember what year they said it happened. I had forgotten all about that. Go ahead.
When was that now?
I don't know.
Right.
There was a picture in the paper today, I think, today or yesterday, and they had it showed a section of people in Texas or someplace.
Yeah.
It was Hands Across America, and they held hands and made a chain across the country, I guess. And I don't remember that at all.
One of the last years that Brown and I were at the Jesup school, we did a video, and the video is no longer online. It was on YouTube. Mm-hmm. We connected from pre-K, in front of the pre-K, out there all the way around to the high school parking lot with students.
Oh, okay.
And that was really neat. And one regret we have is we didn't bring families in and go all the way around the building.
Well, sure.
That would have been neat. That was a homecoming activity.
Yeah. Towards the end, in the spring they were going to tear the last year they had the old school. We all got out in front of the school and had the picture taken of all the faculty and kids and everybody. I always thought that was a neat thing, because it filled up the whole grassy area there, and they got the school in the background. And I always thought that was really neat to be part of that.
That was
pretty nice.
So, all right. You got anything else there?
Well, I don't know. We can talk about. You want to talk about Stevebound Arts Center? The things coming up. We have. You mentioned the Littleton Watermelon Days, and it's July 27th from noon to 10 that night. And then a little later, you were going to talk about Tim Kemmerer, who's an artist, who's going to be it's an art.
Artist in residence.
Artist in residence. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. And we're actually going to interview him on August the 7th, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll find out more about him, and how the program is working. So the big ones, I would say, is July 27th, the Littleton Watermelon Day, and then Tim Kemmerer at the Farmers Market on August 3rd. And then August 8th is, of course, the Youth Talent Show at the Land of Corn Pavilion. So those things to look forward to in the next, I guess about the next 30 days, next month or so.
Yep.
So
thank you.
Sounds good, yeah.
Thank you so much. Don't forget the Derrick's Repair LLC, the Independence Bulletin Journal, Keith Bickert, and Jacobson's Fabrication Repair LLC, even Events and Rental, and Thomas James are all sponsors of the C. Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. Thanks to those. Dale, who, in your mind, without looking it up, would you say has been the 10 richest men of all time?
Of all time.
Of all time.
Okay, I suppose King Midas doesn't count, right? So, the richest man of all, and so you would, like if they were from long ago, you'd be putting it in today's dollars.
That's right, inflation, etc.
Yeah, boy, oh boy.
Guess one, and then we'll...
One, okay. How about, George Washington, I think, was the richest man in America, wasn't he, when he was alive?
Was he really? I didn't realize that.
Okay, I thought I had heard that.
Okay.
Is he on your list?
Okay, he's not on the list.
Okay. Oh,
okay.
Is this like a J.P. Morgan kind of list?
Well, it's among them. That's a good guess.
Okay, how about Vanderbilt?
That's a good guess. He's not on there. Morgan's not on there.
Oh, okay. How about like someone like the King of Spain, when they were getting all that stuff from South America over there, all the gold?
Good guess. Not on there.
Okay. King Tut. He had a lot of gold. I guess, I don't know, I'm not doing very well.
You're doing very well compared to, those are interesting guesses. One man that, and I taught this when I taught world history. It's just basically 3 paragraphs in a world history book anymore. Mansa Musa is the richest man in the history of the world, and I will talk about him in greater detail.
Okay, I'm sorry, one more guess. Rockefeller?
Rockefeller's
is he on the
there.
list?
Yep,
okay.
Yep. He's in the top 10. Mansa Musa was the king of the Mali Empire back in the 2080 to 1337 his wealth was indescribable, and I will describe that to you. He followed Abu Bakr.
Okay.
Okay.
I knew him well.
In the Muslim in the Arabic names, Abu Bakr would be like a John Smith. There's a lot of Abu Bakrs.
Okay.
So I mean, his name is that popular.
Okay.
But Mansa Musa was number one. I'll start from number 10. Number 10, Muammar Gaddafi. Gaddafi from Libya.
Yeah.
Longtime ruler of Libya. He was worth at his prime $200 billion. Remember oil wealth there.
And stealing it from the people. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
$200 billion.
$200 billion at his prime.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he couldn't go anywhere to spend it. I mean, nobody would let him.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Number 9, William the Conqueror.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
William the Conqueror, they figure, was worth about $229 billion for the time.
Because literally he owned the island that makes up Great Britain.
Yes.
Yeah, but that was his property. Okay, all right.
Okay. Number 8, Mir Osman Ali Khan, an Indian royalty from India, was worth about $230 billion. Okay. Tsar Nicholas Alexander Romanov, we spoke about him on this show before, was worth $300 billion, where the people didn't have enough bread to eat.
Yeah.
Stole from him. Number 6, J.D. Rockefeller. As just said, J.D. Rockefeller, American business magnate, oil and trains.
Because they said he had more money than the Treasury of the United States of America, the government.
Yeah.
I had heard that. And I remember reading a little thing where when he died, his financial advisors went to John D. Jr. and said, now the first thing you've got to do is get rid of some of this money. We got to get it out into circulation. And so that's when he started making all these charitable donations and this sort of thing. But we got to get rid of some of this. I don't know if they had big rooms full of it or what, but they said, you got to move some of this money out of here. So
J.D. Rockefeller had $341 billion, or the equivalent of.
Yeah, and unbelievable.
The number, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Scottish American industrialist railroad man Andrew Carnegie.
Oh, sure.
At $372 billion.
Yeah. He's the one that hired the strikebreakers when these coal miners wanted a 10-cent raise.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Akbar the First, Emperor of India's Mughal dynasty, his wealth was incalculable. Number 3.
How come he's not number 1?
Well, because you're going to find out. You're going to find out
right. Go ahead.
Why. Number 3, Zhao Zu, the Emperor of the Shenzong of Song in China. His wealth incalculable. Number 2, famed Roman Empire, the adopted son of Julius Caesar, Augustus Caesar, was worth approximately $4.6 trillion. Who was his arch enemy? Who did he fight the war against?
See, I would know it if you didn't ask.
Cleopatra.
Mark
Antony. Yeah. Cleopatra and Mark Antony.
Can you imagine going out to dinner with him and everybody waiting for him to pick up the check?
At number 1, from the great Mali Empire, Mansa Musa, his wealth was indescribable. Yeah. Well, let me describe that to you.
You're going to describe the indescribable. What a man you are that you can do that.
I'm going to describe the indescribable. He was the Emperor Mansa of Mali during the 14th century. He became the emperor in 1312. He was the first African ruler to be famous in all of Europe and the Middle East.
Okay.
Historians say he was the richest person to have ever lived. Today, his wealth would be worth more than 400 billion, a B in U.S. dollars. Mansa Musa came to power in 1312 CE after the previous ruler, Abu Bakr, disappeared at sea while exploring the Atlantic Ocean, and he never came back. Mansa Musa's new trade works made the already wealthy country the wealthiest in Africa, which mostly came from gold, ivory, and unique salt. He's known for being the richest man in history with his large amount of gold and what he did to make the Mali memorable. Mansa Musa was a great nephew of Sundiat Keita, who started the Mali Empire. He is famous for his Hajj. His caravan may have had 60,000 people carrying supplies and bags, 500 slaves, each carrying a gold staff, and 80 to 100 camels, each carrying 300 pounds of gold dust. On his journey, he's said to have given out millions of dollars worth of gold. He gave out so much gold in Cairo that the price of gold went down and stayed low for many years.
They said, thanks for visiting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mansa Musa stopped in many places on his way to Mecca for his Hajj. These places included Timbuktu and Gao. I think that's how you pronounce it. Might be Gao, G-A-O. He stopped every Friday at a destination and left enough gold for a mosque to be built. So every Friday that he stopped,
He'd build a mosque
he'd
there,
build a mosque there, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Mansa Musa made Timbuktu a center of trade, like Alexander the Great made Alexandria a center of trade, culture, and of Islam, which also helped increase the spread of Islam throughout Western Africa. He was devoted Muslim, and he built many schools based on the teaching of the Quran. He sent students to Islamic universities in northern Africa. Mansa Musa was mostly known for his Hajj pilgrimage to Cairo, Egypt. Several authors from Arabia claim that he traveled with tens of thousands of people and a dozen camels carrying 136 kilograms of gold each. In Cairo, Mansa Musa refused to meet the Sultan, claiming that he was only here for his religious purpose. Before Mansa Musa left, he gave the people of Cairo so much gold that the price of it decreased for 12 years. When he returned to Mecca, Mansa Musa built many mosques and buildings in cities similar to Gao and Timbuktu. After his Hajj, European cartographers began to draw Mansa Musa on maps. As the Empire of Mali fell apart, Mansa Musa's reputation did as well. He was no longer drawn as a noble king on maps. Instead, artists drew him to look uncivilized. He was drawn as a parody of European royalty and a normal person with a crown. Mansa Musa was married to Inari Kunit. Now, Dale, I was thinking of this as I and then a lot of that came from Wikipedia. I was thinking of this as I was researching this. The Catholics make their pilgrimage. Their pilgrimages. The Muslims make their pilgrimage to the Hajj,
To Mecca.
Yeah. It has always been my dream to go to there's a cave in Bethlehem, and on top of that cave is built a Catholic church. And I've always wanted, they say that cave in Bethlehem is where Jesus was born.
Okay.
And it's always been my dream to go to Mass in that Catholic church on Christmas Eve. There have been Israel and the Palestinians have been at war in that outside of that church before, and they've had to cancel services. But that really, I respect. What was it this year? Between 60 and 200 people died at the Hajj this year.
Yeah, and sometimes it's worse than that.
Yes.
As far as people get trampled, I guess, right? There's Russian. So
yeah. So
I'm just wondering if there's anything in the Quran about the love of money or like there is in the Bible as far as accumulating too much wealth or whatever. And does it say how he got that? Like where'd all the gold come from, or?
Well, Abu Bakr, Mali was and still might be may have the most gold mines in the world.
Oh, okay. So they mined it themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It wasn't conquest or anything like that. Okay. That's a lot of... you just can't imagine that kind of wealth. And just think of the logistical problem of traveling from there to Mecca with that many people and that many camels and that many pounds of this and that, just bathrooms and somebody had to really know what they were doing to get that all organized to make it work. So that would be a tremendous job.
Think of that. Think of the environmental trek that you would leave behind.
Yeah.
Especially today.
Oh yeah.
So Dale, you said that you had a follow up to last week's talk about our Hatfields and McCoy's discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's interesting because I'm reading this book. It's called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and he's written lots of books about this. And he talks. One chapter is called Harlan, Kentucky, and it's about feuding and why there is feuding. I guess only way is to read you parts of this and hope you find it as interesting as I did. But Harlan County was founded in 1819 by 8 immigrant families from the northern regions of the British Isles. They had come to Virginia in the 18th century and then moved west into the Appalachians in search of land. The county was never wealthy. For its first 100 years, it was thinly populated, rarely numbering more than 10,000 people. The first settlers kept pigs and herded sheep on the hillsides, scratching out a living on small farms in the valley. They made whiskey in backyard stills and felled trees, floating them down the Cumberland River in the spring when the water was high. Until well into the 20th century, getting to the nearest train station was a 2-day wagon trip. The only way out of town was up Pine Mountain, which was 9 steep miles on a road that turned on occasion into no more than a muddy, rocky trail. Harlan was a remote and strange place, unknown by the larger society around it, and it might well have remained so but for the fact that 2 of the town's founding families, the Howards and the Turners, did not get along. The patriarch of the Howard clan was Samuel Howard. He built the town courthouse and the jail. His counterpart was William Turner, who owned a tavern and 2 general stores. Once a storm blew down the fence to the Turner property and a neighbor's cow wandered onto their land. William Turner's grandson, Devil Jim, shot the cow dead. The neighbor was too terrified to press charges and fled the county. Another time, a man tried to open a competitor to the Turners' general store. The Turners had a word with him. He closed the store and moved to Indiana. These were not pleasant people. One night, Wicks Howard and Little Bob Turner, the grandsons of Samuel and William respectively, played against each other in a game of poker. Each accused the other of cheating. They fought. The following day, they met in the street, and after a flurry of gunshots, Little Bob Turner lay dead with a shotgun blast to the chest. A group of Turners went to the Howard's general store and spoke roughly to Mrs. Howard. She was insulted and told her son, Wills Howard, and the following week he exchanged gunfire with another of Turner's grandsons, young Will Turner, on the road to Hagen, Virginia. That night, one of the Turners and a friend attacked the Howard home. The 2 families then clashed outside the Harlan courthouse. In the gunfire, Will Turner was shot and killed. A contingent of Howards then went to see Mrs. Turner, the mother of Will Turner and Little Bob, to ask for a truce. She declined. "You can't wipe out that blood," she said, pointing to the dirt where her son had died. Things quickly went from bad to worse. Wills Howard ran into little George Turner near Sulphur Springs and shot him dead. The Howards ambushed 3 friends of the Turners, the K-Woods, killing all of them. A posse was sent out in search of the Howard. In the resulting gunfight, 6 more were killed or wounded. Wills Howard heard the Turners were after him, and he and a friend rode into Harlan and attacked the Turner home. Riding back, the Howards were ambushed. In the fighting, another person died. Wills Howard rode to George Turner's house and fired at him but missed and killed another man. A posse surrounded the Howard home. There was another gunfight, more dead. The county was in an uproar. I think you get the picture. There were places in 19th century America where people lived in harmony. Harlan, Kentucky was not one of them. "Stop that!" Will Turner's mother snapped at him when he staggered home, howling in pain after being shot in the courthouse gun battle with the Howards. "Die like a man, like your brother did." She belonged to a world so well acquainted with fatal gunshots that she had certain expectations about how they ought to be endured. Will shut his mouth, and he died.
There's a great song called "You Never Leave Harlan Alive."
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. How's the first line go? In the deep dark hills of southern Kentucky. Okay. It's there that I trace my bloodline.
The first critical fact about Harlan is that at the same time the Howards and the Turners were killing one another, there were almost identical clashes in other small towns up and down the Appalachians. In the famous Hatfield-McCoy feud on the West Virginia-Kentucky border, not far from Harlan, several dozen people were killed in a cycle of violence that stretched over 20 years. In the French Eversole feud in Perry County, Kentucky, 12 died, 6 of them killed by Bad Tom Smith, a man John Ed Pierce writes in Days of Darkness who was just dumb enough to be fearless, just bright enough to be dangerous, and a dead shot. The Martin Tolliver feud in Rowan County, Kentucky, in the mid-1880s featured 3 gunfights, 3 ambushes, and 2 house attacks, and ended in a 2-hour gun battle involving 100 armed men. The Baker-Howard feud in Clay County, Kentucky, began in 1806 with an elk hunting party gone bad and didn't end until the 1930s when a couple of Howards killed 3 Bakers in an ambush. And these were just the well-known feuds. The Kentucky legislator Harry Caudle once looked in a circuit court clerk's office in one Cumberland Plateau town and found 1,000 murder indictments stretching from the end of the Civil War in the 1860s to the beginning of the 20th century. And this for a region that never numbered more than 15,000 people and where many violent acts never made it to the indictment stage. Cauley writes of a murder trial in Breathitt County that ended abruptly when the defendant's father, a man about 50 with huge handlebar whiskers and 2 immense pistols, walked up to the judge and grabbed his gavel. The feudist rapped the bench and announced, "Court's over and everybody can go. We ain't gonna have any court here this term, folks." The red-faced judge hastily acquiesced in this extraordinary murder and promptly left town. When court convened at the next term, the court and the sheriff were bolstered by 60 militiamen, but by then the defendant was not available for trial. He had been slain in an ambush. And he says, when one family fights with another, it's a feud. When lots of families fight with one another in identical little towns up and down the same mountain range, it's a pattern. And that's what he has investigated in this chapter. And he says, cultures of honor tend to take root in highlands and other marginally fertile areas such as Sicily or the mountainous Basque regions of Spain. If you live on some rocky mountainside, the explanation goes, you can't farm. You probably raise goats or sheep, and the kind of culture that grows up around being a herdsman is very different from the culture that grows up around growing crops. The survival of a farmer depends on the cooperation of others in the community, but a herdsman is off by himself. Farmers also don't have to worry that their livelihood will be stolen in the night because crops can't easily be stolen unless, of course, the thief wants to go to the trouble of harvesting an entire field on his own. But a herdsman does have to worry. He's under constant threat of ruin through the loss of his animals. So he has to be aggressive. He has to make it clear through his words and deeds that he has to be willing to fight in response to even the slightest challenge to his reputation, if that's what a culture of honor means. It's a world where a man's reputation is at the center of his livelihood and self-worth. And here's a man, J.D. Campbell. He says, quarrels are of necessary public. They may occur in the coffee shop, the village square, or most frequently on a grazing boundary where a curse or a stone aimed at one of his straying sheep by another shepherd is an insult which inevitably requires a violent response. So and this is what I wanted to get at. So why was Appalachia the way it was? It was because of where the original inhabitants of the region came from. The so-called American backcountry states, from the Pennsylvania border south and west through Virginia and West Virginia, Kentucky and Tennessee, North Carolina and South Carolina, and the northern end of Alabama and Georgia, were settled overwhelmingly by immigrants from one of the world's most ferocious cultures of honor. They were Scotch-Irish, that is, from the lowlands of Scotland, the northern counties of England, and Ulster in Northern Ireland. And my grandfather was Scotch-Irish. I always said he was Scotch-Irish. And none of this, but my grandmother and my grandfather was 20 to 25 years older than my grandmother. My grandmother, after my grandfather died, my grandmother told one of my cousins that her husband, my grandfather, had killed a man in a fight over her when they were young. And knowing the man, I wouldn't be a bit surprised. It's just hearsay, but was kind of interesting. He talks about homicides in the South, and he says, the homicides in which the South seems to specialize are those in which someone is being killed by someone he, or often she, knows for reasons both killer and victim understand, Reed adds. The statistics show that the Southerner who can avoid arguments and adultery is as safe as any other American and probably safer. In the backcountry, violence wasn't for economic gain, It was personal. You fought over your honor. And many years ago, the Southern newspaperman Harding Carter told the story of how, as a young man, he served on a jury. The case before the jury involved an irascible gentleman who lived next door to a filling station. For several months, he had been the butt of various jokes played by the attendants and the miscellaneous loafers who hung around the station, despite his warnings and his notorious short temper. One morning, he emptied both barrels of his shotgun at his tormentors, killing one, maiming another permanently, and wounding a third. When the jury was polled by the incredulous judge, Carter was the only jury who recorded his vote as guilty. As one of the others put it, he wouldn't have been much of a man if he hadn't shot them fellows.
I love that book. That book has, it has talks about Lawrence of Arabia in there.
Yeah, and the Beatles. I mean, it's an interesting book.
Yeah.
Let me get you one more little part, and then I'll be done. Okay, I know it's gone long.
No, that's good. This is well done.
Only in a culture of honor would it have occurred to the irascible gentleman that shooting someone was an appropriate response to a personal insult. And only in a culture of honor would it have occurred to a jury that murder, under these circumstances, was not a crime. I realize that we are often wary of making these kinds of broad generalizations about different cultural groups, and with good reason. This is the form that racial and ethnic stereotypes take. We want to believe that we are not prisoners of our ethnic histories. But the simple truth is that if you want to understand what happened in those small towns in Kentucky in the 19th century, you have to go back into the past, and not just 1 or 2 generations. You have to go back 2 or 3 or 400 years to a country on the other side of the ocean and look closely at what exactly the people in very specific geographic area of that country did for a living. The culture of honor hypothesis says that it matters where you're from, not just in terms of where you grew up or where your parents grew up, but in terms of where your great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents grew up, and even where your great-great-great-grandparents grew up. That is a strange and powerful fact. It is just the beginning, though, because upon closer examination, cultural legacies turn out to be even stranger and more powerful than that. And then the book goes on. And I was thinking about this when Serbia and Bosnia were together for years and years, many years, and the people lived side by side. And once they split, then they started killing each other right away, and it was over grudges that were hundreds of years old sometimes, racial grudges or this or that, or your great-great-grandfather stole my house or whatever, and the violence was just terrible there. And so it's a very interesting book, and I'm not finished with it yet, but it's just, he sees it as a patterns, and he makes the point that the people from this area, the Scotch-Irish, and there's other ethnic groups too, that it's a code of honor with them. And that's why these feuds happen. And it wasn't just the Hatfields and McCoys, but it was whole bunches of them. And it just reflected in the culture, and it probably is still out there in some ways. So anyway, it's kind of interesting. So I thought I should, because you brought it up last week, and I saw that, I thought, well, this kind of gives a little bit more to it. So
that book is called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there is a podcast online called Outliers.
Yeah, my son listens to it, and he's written. I have 4 of them. All of them. This is the third one of the 4,
right?
And they all are very, very interesting.
Oh, they are. He is wonderful. He just started a podcast called Medal of Honor. He talks about the guys that won the Medal of Honor.
Okay, yeah. So you're very well familiar with him. And so. I like we talked about the Beatles, how when they came to America, how polished, how good they were. Well, they got that gig in Germany, and they had to play 12 hours a day, and it was a strip bar, is what it was. And he says there was a lot of booze and sex, and so that they were too unhappy. But they played 12 hours a day. They played 270 shows over a certain length of time, which a lot of bands never play that many in their whole careers. And they just did that in Germany, so that by the time they came to America, they were so polished, and so they just knew what they were doing and did it very, very well, and were, I guess you call it an instant sensation. But he said that practice, 10,000 hours of practice is what you need.
And we used to talk about this in class. Gladwell is at 10,000 hours, and it is. He argued that you could become a professional athlete or whatever. And there was a golfer that started from nothing, that never golfed, and he had a GoFundMe on and people funded him, and he worked at that, and the closest he could get was, a Jesup Clubhouse championship. He couldn't get on the professional circuit.
Yeah.
there is the argument, especially when it comes to professional athletes, of you must have certain genes too.
Yeah. And see, he talks about that in there. The main thing I think is that if you and I both had those genes, and I practiced 10,000 hours and you practiced 3,000 hours, then I would be incredibly more advanced than you would.
Right.
If we started out fairly equal. I think that's what he's talking about then. I thought it was interesting too. He said, like, if you have an IQ of 130 and somebody else an IQ of 180, well, 130 is smart enough.
Yeah.
Your achievements will be relatively the same, and because, there's no advantage to having that extra numbers, 130 is smart enough to do whatever you need to do. And so I thought that was interesting too.
It is. It is interesting.
Very well. Thank you for listening to me. I just found that very interesting.
I love Gladwell. Gladwell does a lot of good for us. He's Canadian distance runner is what he is, among many other things. Thanks, Dale. Don't forget, we are brought to you by the Boyd's Food Truck, Mickey D's Pizza and Lobster, both of whom will be out at the Littleton Free Watermelon Day, July 27th. Dream Chaser Acres, Bobby Leach and Farm and Bureau Financial Services provides our insurance for us. M&M Bakery in Lawrence, Kansas. One of those bakers is trying to get a job locally, actually.
Oh, is that right?
I will not say. I don't want to wreck it for them.
As a baker?
Okay. Yes, trying to.
Have you been to the new little bake shop down here? Or?
I haven't been there yet.
I have not either. Yeah. And I need to stop in.
I need to come to town one day. You and I will go.
Down. It's okay. Sounds good.
And Innovative Wealth Management, Zach Knudsen. He provides our chamber membership, so thank you. Some of the things coming up on the Steve Brown Arts Center that are new is Tim Kimmerer is our new artist in residence, our first artist in residence. He lives in Independence. He's a retired gentleman.
Okay.
And he just started painting Thanksgiving of last year.
Okay, of 23?
Of 23.
Okay, all right.
And he is remarkable.
Okay.
And I met him, actually, supporter of the Steve Brown Arts Center, Joe Olson, brought him to my attention and said he would be a great first artist in residence for us. And so I went over and met Tim 2 weeks ago, and then last week I went and offered him the residency. And like you talked about, we have four events planned for him so far. One is he will be at the Jesup Farmers Market August 3rd. That will be his first event for the Steve Brown Arts Center. He will be selling his art there.
Okay.
August 7th, we will interview him on the podcast. And then would be September 7th, Tim will be doing a painting at the Independence Farmers Market, a live painting, so people can watch him paint there.
Are you going to be the subject? Or?
I think he will probably either paint the mill or the shot up the river.
Okay.
There in Independence.
Which is really a very good view if you were standing there. It's really very, very pretty. Very pretty.
And then his fourth event so far that we have is we will be showing Tim's art November 1st at the Littleton and Chatham Chili Sup. So those are four things we have Tim scheduled for, and we're so glad to have him. He was very excited.
Yeah, that's good. I've been actually when I first came to Jesup, the school nurse was Georgia Kimmerer. I just wonder if there's any relation.
I'll have to ask Tim.
Okay, because she was a fantastic person, and a lot of fun, and a good school nurse too, I should say.
Right.
But yeah, so that would be interesting.
Yes. So,
were you here when Georgia was here?
Or? For a short amount of time, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. We are also going to have Emily Ann Bauer at the Independence or the Buchanan County Tourism Center August 9th. We will have an event at Otter Creek Animal Shelter for their anniversary. Barb Lake, who is just texting me now as we speak.
Doesn't she know you're busy?
Oh, she is. Some of our fans are outside the window, Dale. There, listening to last week's show. That's when Ashley, when Bovian Brown will be singing.
Yeah.
So we're so excited to have Tim with us.
Sounds like a really good program.
Yeah.
Anxious to see his work.
Yes. As we go through the year, and it's almost August, Dale.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing where the year goes. We are almost there. There's the front page, and we're almost to the back page of our events as we do this. Dale, I've asked you this before, and you work with a 501c3. Is Farmers Day 501c3?
I don't think so. No, we're a corporation.
You are a corporate LLC.
We're incorporated. I don't know if it's. I know that we're incorporated.
You're incorporated. We are, but we're an LLC too. But we are also 501c3.
Yeah.
Is it harder for Farmers Day to get volunteers or get money?
Oh, well, a lot of the businesses have been very generous, like the telephone company, for example, has been very generous over the years, and the banks. And Spawn and Rose has been, since the very beginning, all that stuff we have down at the pavilion, the boards and the blocks and all that sort of thing, they always provide those. They bring them over and they come again and take them back. And they've done that for, as long as I can remember. And so, but the banks, and so we get, and it's nice if we, like when we had the firemen coming from the 9/11 people, something big like that, it costs a lot more money than we normally pay. The community's been very generous as far as helping out in this sort of thing. And then we make money from the beer tent, and then we take 15% of the gross sales of the booths that are up. And so that's where our money, but mainly it comes from the beer tent. Some of the businesses in town have made, they make generous donations every year. So that's how we make our money. And we're not in the money-making business, but we try to have enough that we can pay our bills and have enough money left over so that if everything blew away during that, we can still have it the next year.
Great.
And so other than that, and we gave a scholarship up at school, and we gave a lot of money to help build that pavilion down there, and it belongs to the city, but we put a lot of money into that, and a lot of the wiring and plumbing and all that kind of stuff down there we end up paying for, and a lot of times Alan ends up doing it,
Yeah.
And so it's you need a lot of people. It's a community thing. It's a city celebration, and we're just trying to help put it on.
And that's our challenge with the Littleton Free Watermelon Day is getting workers. We don't have the budget that you guys do for the Farmers Day, and we obviously don't serve the people that you do. But it is a battle to get the volunteers. So if you're interested in volunteering, we would love to have you. We're close to. We're actually about 50% of our way through volunteers. And we will have them by that time.
Yeah.
It's just
we
working
got a small
to get
population that you're working from.
Yes.
And you got to remember, Farmers have been at over 100 years. Because there were years where we were scrimping as far as the budget goes, that we did not have a lot of money.
Right.
And so as the economy has gone up, and we've just been blessed with good weather and this sort of thing, so our budget has increased, and the amount of money we have on hand to do things with has increased. But then all these bands cost more than they used to, and other people. But it's nice, like the face painter. You usually contract with a face painter to have her come, and she would charge so much to the people.
I know who you're talking about, lady from LaPorte.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. But now we just pay her, and she just paints the faces for free, and she doesn't have to worry about collecting money or anything. We just give her a check, and she doesn't have to collect from the people.
Oh,
so
cool.
It's just another service. Another thing you can get done at Farmers Day, and so we try to do stuff like that.
Yeah, that's all kind of you. I didn't realize that. That's neat.
But there are people like we talk about this. I guess Thomas James. They do all the garbage. They don't charge us anything for the garbage.
And they're kind enough to do that for us as well at the Littleton Watermelon Day.
And you just figure you get a lot of expenses like that you don't have to pay it makes it a lot easier to do things.
Yes. People are good. People are very good. Yeah. It's like Cowork 591 allows us week in and week out to come here and use this beautiful facility, use their podcast materials.
Yeah.
And we're well lit. We're lucky to have Blake that understands the technology.
Blake's too young, so he's not well lit. Yeah. So.
It is. We're so fortunate.
Yeah.
And you're right, Jesup. The ministers and the preachers of our community, I really believe that volunteerism is big in our community. They teach that real hard in the churches. So.
Yeah, most organizations can't survive without good volunteers.
Yeah.
And when you start having troubles when you don't have the volunteers to do the work, and then you start dropping programs, and you drop programs, and then fewer people come, and then it just, pretty soon you got nothing going.
Yeah.
So we went back to that little Presbyterian church in Rhinebeck where we got married for our 50th anniversary, and it's all, I think there's one person maybe in there for, everybody else is, like my age.
Yeah.
And like just like 25 of them or something. And you just look at it and say, okay, these people love this little church and everything, but all of them are within being generous 20 years of not being here anymore. And what's going to happen to it? Who's going to support it? And so, but the world, the world is everything changes.
It does. So, you're right.
You have to be cognizant of that also.
Dale, will you tell us a little bit about the Littleton Free Watermelon Day? That's coming July 27th.
Yeah, that's coming right up.
From noon until 8. Noon until 8, I believe.
Yeah, it says noon to 8.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have music, and there's scheduled throughout the day, and the McBrides are at 12:30 to 2, and then Ball Vance and Powers, who did Farmers Day, there from 2 to 3, and the Bad Habits Band are people, right?
That's right. That's right.
6 to 8, and so and we have artists that will be on hand, and they'll be showing work and showing how to do things, right?
Showing work, showing how to do things.
So Daryl Steege does machine woodwork. I bet.
Right.
Okay. And Helen Hunter does watercolors, and Aiden Miller is the flint napper, as long as Tom Tidor. And I've seen people do that. They use like antlers and flint and make arrowheads and this kind of stuff, and it's amazing how they do that.
Tommy has been kind enough to provide a raffle prize for us. He made a flint knap knife from a deer leg, and I can't remember. I think he got the stone from Arkansas.
Okay, well that sounds. I would like something like that. I just think something that was made like that would be something neat. Just to have, I don't know why. You wouldn't need it for anything, but some of those it's just nice to have. There's a man named John Casey that does oil-based painting.
Yes.
Okay. Food vendors, Mickey D's Pizza and Lobster, Boyd's Food Truck, and the Totally Rolled Ice Cream from Northeast Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
You got free watermelon 2 different times this time. Yeah, 1 to 2 and 4 to 5. They'll have watermelon available. The Kidners have mule rides.
Yeah. The Kidners live up the road from me, and quite often they'll give their friends mule rides down my road in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Well, that sounds kind of fun too, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. They're there from 1 to 3. Games for kids 3 to 4. You have somebody doing that. Sponsors you've read through: the Littleton Lounge and Reyes Concrete, Littleton Chatham Historical, Jacobson Fabrication and Repair, Dream Chaser Acres, and Mickey D's Pizza and Lobster, Keith Bickert, Laces, Thomas James, Derek's Repair Shop, Even Events and Rentals, and the Independence Bulletin Journal all help out with the Steve Brown Arts Center. Free Watermelon Day, and that's coming July 27th. That's not very far away. Hope a lot of people come out and see what's going on. Sounds like a lot of fun.
All right. One last story before we close for the day. So Dale, what's as you vote for in an election, what is the number one reason that you or issue that you vote for a candidate?
Oh, I don't know. It's hard anymore because they don't tell you what they have on their mind. They'll talk about this and that, but they have stuff on their mind they don't talk about. And I specifically think of the Iowa Public Employees Collective Bargaining Act, which I was just a young teacher when that started, and it's a fantastic thing, I thought. And nobody said anything about it for years and years, and all at once they get elected and they got that thing. It's worthless now. And so it's hard to tell what people are going to do when they get in, because the things they have on their mind that are very serious to them, they don't really talk about until they get elected, and then they all gang together and they just run it through whether anybody wants it or not. And so right now I'm kind of mad at Republicans because they're the ones that got rid of the collective bargaining bill, and I thought it was a great bill. So I've often thought if I was still working with ISCA or whatever, I would be talking about strike sometime, because we gave the teachers, one of the things they did was we got the collective bargaining bill where we could talk to our employers and get a contract, and in return we agreed that we would never strike. And since they took that away, I think we ought to go back, but all the old people that were at the probably don't get all fired up like we do. I don't know. But, so I don't know how to answer your question, but
labor issues. There you go. Labor issues is one of them.
Yeah, labor issues, but I like somebody that you would think will serve. It's not trying to get a lifetime job, but just wants to serve the people in their district or their state or whatever, and do the best job they can for a amount of time, and then move on and let somebody else have a turn. Not to make it their life's work. There was a senator, now I can't think, in Indiana. He's 89 or early 90, had just died. It was on the news today, and he was a mayor. And then he was a state congressman, then a federal congressman, and then a senator for X number of years. He was sort of like Grassley, where he got started. And that's all he's ever done in his life is politics. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that's such a good thing. All the good he did he was from Oklahoma. All the good he did for his state. He made sure that military bases got improved in his state and this and that. And sometimes they make the military do things or buy things that they don't really want, but they just pass a law saying you will buy this kind of airplane. And the military said, well, that plane is no good. No, it's made to my state, and we will buy X amount of them, X number of those planes for the military. That's in the bill. It's the law. And so I don't like that kind of thing. It's nice to help out your state, but it's not nice to ruin the country or to have other people have to pay. It's just transferring money from the rest of the country to your state is all it is.
Right.
And that's not what it's all about. So anyway, I just try to find someone that I think will serve, not be served.
The issues they've made out this year. The number one issue with the Republicans are immigration. Mm-hmm. The number one issue with the Democrats is abortion. Those are the ones that they can punch at the others.
Sure,
is what it is.
They're so far apart on those.
Yeah.
And so
also, usually what wins is the economy.
Yeah.
Like in yours was the economy.
Yeah.
The bargaining issues and stuff. So the Steve Brown Arts Center is a nonprofit organization that has a vision for artists young and old alike to have the opportunity to better themselves while helping to build the skills of those around them. If you'd like to donate to the Steve Brown Arts Center or have an idea for an event, go to the SteveBrownArtsCenter.org and follow the link. If you have news or would like to sponsor us, email us at jim@SteveBrownArtsCenter.org or call 319-290-0241 and leave a message. I'm Jim Gillespie with co-host Dale Rueber and our producer Blake Tempus. He runs multiple devices as we go through this. He's amazing. He runs a camera, he runs the audio, he runs the computer, he does research on his phone. It just stuns me. And then he puts the show out every Monday at 10 in the morning.
And he graduated with honors.
Honors besides.
From Hawkeye this year. So
yes. Thanks.
Did you graduate with honors?
I actually every year became a better student, which you should.
Yeah.
And as a teacher, as a coach, you want your students, your athletes to get better.
Yeah.
And I got better.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
And it shows too.
Well, you're a terrible liar, but you're kind. As I said, I'm Jim Gillespie with co-host Dale Rueber and producer Blake Tempus. And thanks to, as always, Kelly C. Haas. Thanks to the audience for bringing these stray dogs into your day. And remember, each day is about little victories.
That's for sure.